Hey everybody. Sorry I had to change the category. It keeps wanting to put me on Pac-Man. And I don't know why. Because we're not drawing Pac-Man. Let me know if the sound is okay. Also, just let me know in the chat if something's too loud, if something's not loud enough. Yeah. Nothing I can do about the pencil sharpener though. That's as loud as it is. Cool. Good to know. I'd done a little bit of like a rough first because I don't think people want to squint at a 50% gray for too long. So figured I'd get a little bit of a head start. But I thought maybe there might be some aspects that people would be interested in on the rough side. I don't think it's too much of a mystery. Usually when I'm roughing something in, I'm mostly just giving myself enough to kind of detail out afterward. I don't like to spell it all out here. Otherwise, when I start doing the kind of final lines, it's sort of boring because it's already done. So I try and keep it as interesting as I can for myself. I like to keep myself guessing a little bit. No, I'm not using any references. You know, I tend to use a ton of reference at work because designing movie posters, you know, you got to get the likeness right and all that stuff. So sketching out actors and whatnot all day, every day. So I feel like I have a pretty good mental library built up, and I just tend to not use it as much in my own work unless I'm really tackling something that I haven't really tackled before, just something I'm not super familiar with. When it comes to human figure, I'm pretty familiar with that. It's like all I draw. Nothing wrong with using references, though, by the way. And I think it's a good thing. There are times that I will go back to it just to kind of keep things fresh in my mind as much as I can. But I rarely use it during a drawing. I'll use it more in the sense that I will, if I know I'm going to be tackling a difficult subject, I will look up reference for it, and then I'll study that and just commit as much as I can to memory and then put it away. And then I'll start drawing or painting or whatever. But there are times you need, if it's something really tricky that depends on a certain kind of order of effects, you know, or layers. If you're trying to paint, you know, a reflection on murky water, there's layers in that water, and you need to kind of layer it properly, in which case, yeah, I'll have reference out. I will be looking at it directly as I paint, that kind of thing. But I try and push my memory as much as I can because I don't like to rely on that. It makes my job slower when I work. If I have to look up reference for every single thing, then I can't get as much done. So. Sold on the angle of that arm. That feels better. I did do a lot of figure drawing. Yeah. I was always drawing out of my head as well. And the way that I used figure drawing the most was actually, like, I would spend all evening, all night drawing out of my head, and I'd pay attention to which parts of the figure, which parts of the anatomy were giving me trouble. And then when I would go to figure drawing class, I'd really make an effort to pay attention to those areas, to really try and understand what the hell was going on. Whether it was the structure that was giving me problems, like the skeletal structure, or if I didn't understand how the muscles were moving, whatever it was, I would just really try and pay attention to that the next time the model was in front of me. So yeah, that's generally how I used it. But going through animation school, we did a lot of figure drawing. Then going back to school for illustration, we did a lot of figure drawing. So, and even before that in junior college, I did a good amount of figure drawing. So yeah, definitely got to give credit where credit is due. Sorry, I will always try and answer the questions. I'm just not looking up at the screen all the time since I'm on my drawing board. I don't usually feel the need to go too detailed with some of this stuff, depending on how forgiving it is. You know, like some subjects are not very forgiving at all. Like drawing like a pretty girl. Not super forgiving, but like the creature who she has her foot on, totally forgiving. That can look however the hell I want it to look. So I don't need to really worry about getting details there in the rough. Whereas with her, I at least want to make sure I know where the features are falling. I don't really need like every little thing to be fleshed out, so I'm okay with making that up as I go. That also depends on how designed I want the image to be. If I really want, if it's like about the kind of graphic design of the composition, then I'll probably refine it a bit more. But for me, as long as I know what the scribbles are, that's kind of all I need to move forward. We can hint at a little bit of a background, get some kind of trees or something in here. I don't need a whole lot. Just a little bit of a whiff of environment. Alright. Let's start doing some lines. Often what I'll do after I've got my rough in, I will usually kind of come in and just dab some of it away. Because the 50% gray, if it gets too dark or too opaque, it'll show up in the final. But as long as you keep it transparent, you won't even see it in the final piece. So I usually just kind of come back over. I'm pretty good at remembering what it was I put down if I happen to take a little more info away than I want. So let's think about how we want this final to be while we sip our latte. Trying to decide where I want her to be looking. I don't really want her to be looking at the viewer, because I feel like that'll take us out of the scene a little bit. A little longer. So maybe she'll be looking down at him, victorious.
Dispatch crack wine and the bells did chime on a day most like tonight. We're down at the banquet table or a feast I'm yet to decide, Lord. Kings and the queens and the Mexican bees and the music, oh delight, oh yeah. We're down in the city in the night time. The fires raged in scores, yeah. The bars drunk bellies of 1,000 stories with 1,000,000 times more. But in the darkness, the heart was thumping. The star as sharp as a knife, Lord, cause he knew that his lady was dying in the midst of another life. Oh, yeah. Such time.
By the way, I am working on acetate paper. This is a Duraline acetate paper, which is why I can erase a Prismacolor pencil. This would not work on regular paper, Bristol or something like that. You wouldn't be able to erase like that. So since it's acetate, it's translucent, so you can see here.
We came to the steps of his fortune, and I hear I said to climb there. Bust through the doors on the marble floors, it was meant by many and I. My name is 1,000 diamonds, one for every heartbeat. I come to you, my love for you, and skin tone pale and white. Where the gods rust in the seas, and he drew upon his shield here. Down with the men so many, for they knew that he must live. Where history tells of a story of a love no longer than I know. The woman who found her fortune, with a name with nothing but life.
Hadn't really thought about the armor design beforehand. But I think in this case I just want to go with something simple. Probably be more like a hard leather armor kind of stuff rather than metal. Not that she has a super practical armor design, but you know, whatever. Yeah, it's this technique is super forgiving. Like there's a bit of a learning curve once you get into actually putting the tone on, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it is very easy to control, which, you know, I mean, for my work is pretty important because you never know what you're gonna have to change, when you're gonna have to change it. So anything that's forgiving, you could do it digitally, but I do it digital when you could draw on paper. Some of the stuff, we still do plenty of digital stuff at work, but as much as I can, I keep it to traditional. And yeah, this will be the same technique as that pirate drawing, with some differences. And right away, I actually want to get into some of the shadows. There was something bothering me. That nose placement. Alright. Get into drawing these little heads. Something can be just the tiniest bit off and this won't look right. That's better. It is. Traditional media is not often terribly forgiving, which obviously is why, you know, so many of us do gravitate toward digital, especially if we're doing any kind of commercial work. It's because people always want to be able to change everything, so you need something that'll allow you to do that. And I don't know if that makes us better artists than we used to be or not, but I mean, I will say I see, you know, younger people being able to draw and paint things that people their age could not do before, so I guess we have to say that artists are getting better in some respects, one way or another. when I'm doing the final drawings, I like to kind of detail out as I go. Because otherwise, if I, there's a good chance of just forgetting to do something if I try and leave it till later. It's just a preference. It's not like a better way to do it. It's just better for me. So. Finalizing. Wanted her to have. See, super practical armor. That's weird. It doesn't say Pac-Man on mine. Maybe you have to refresh? Because it said it first, and then I changed it. And I had to refresh, and then it updated. But what if I refresh, and it still says Pac-Man? Oh, yeah, in the email... Because for some reason it reset to Pac-Man even after I had changed it and saved the changes. And I didn't realize that it had reset before I did the whole event thing or whatever. Twitch is weird. I feel like some of that shit is more complicated than it has to be. Sorry, Twitch, but it's true. For those of you wondering who this Archer Kell guy is, he's like my brother from another mother and an accomplished artist himself, so check him out as well. fan of asymmetry, so I'm not gonna put like the same boot. It'll be kind of the same shape, but not the same design. I have this tendency to put rivets, and now I'm wondering when the rivet was first invented. And I don't know if they actually had them in like the medieval era, which would be sort of what this is based on. So, note to self. Or better yet, hey Siri, set a reminder for 9 p.m. tonight to research rivets.
Okay, I added research rivets to your reminders for today at 9 p.m.
Boom, done. It could be flintlock fantasy, I suppose. Though that wasn't really what I had in mind, but you know, I'm not opposed to it. I ain't mad at that. Of course, I probably could have just asked Siri when the rivet was invented, huh? Thank you, Noah. Appreciate that. No Academy. I said Noah. It looked like Noah. Is that pronounced no? Or N-O-H? Gotcha. Little hair underneath there. It is kind of like Princess and the Pea, right? Like the slightest little thing under the paper, and I mean, I saw it before it affected any of the marks, but yeah, it's kind of silly. You know. Damn eraser shards. Wanting to add some textural differences in the pencil, though a lot of that I'll be able to get into when I really start toning it up, so I'm not super worried, but you know, I'm actually not worried at all. But I figure I'd hit some of that stuff. She did just go through some kind of a fight, right? It's hard because I have her shoulder pads lifted way up, and it's making her neck look a lot shorter than it actually is. And it's bugging me. Better. Alright. Get into this guy. Oh. Cool, man. Autumn, thanks for checking it out. Everyone, say bye to Autumn. Bye, Autumn. Dead Triclops. Can't really remember the last time I saw anything involving a Triclops. I feel like Triclopses and Cyclopses were such a big thing in the 80s. And Quicksand. We're gonna give him a gnarly snake tone, because, you know, that just makes him seem more evil, which we kind of want. We don't want him to be like, he's just a harmless Triclops and this girl's just a dick. We don't want that. He's the bad guy. One of the things we really learned doing sketch art, which is sketching for advertising, is what I do, right? Helping to design movie posters, and TV posters and video game covers, basically print ad campaigns and stuff for entertainment. But one of the things we learned is to have our focal area and then just let it loosen up outside of that. So I might have a couple of focal areas. I want his face to be somewhat clear, but then the rest of it will start to just kind of loosen up a bit so it doesn't get distracting. We don't want to distract our viewers. You know, we don't want something to be hard to look at. Plus, it lets things go faster, and at work, like, if I have to get 5 or 6 drawings done in a day, which I often do, and then we're talking about also having to get likeness, right, on the actors and characters and whatever, and there might be 5 or 6 or 7 actors in it that you have to do little portraits of, and so having to get, 5 of those drawings done in a day can be a little grueling. So that's where being able to kind of loosen up outside of the focal areas really helps, and it helps to reinforce composition as well. It can mean all of that, but a lot of times it might just mean, softer edges, not as much detail, and so I won't get into like little details like this, in areas that don't matter as much. It's sometimes an area is simply about the big shape. It's not about the little details, and it's that big shape that kind of helps reinforce the composition, in which case the details don't matter. Sometimes it's fun though to detail out everything, but it's not always necessary. And can sometimes work against you, too. But it does take some skill and practice to kind of learn how to indicate properly. I mean, my whole job revolves around that, so I definitely have a lot of practice, but it was something that I did have to consciously make an effort to learn. And I mean, luckily in school that we had several classes where they would really focus on indication, on just the least amount of information to depict whatever it was you were showing. So at least it was something I was aware of and could really practice at. How often will I be streaming? I am hoping I will definitely stream every Monday because I don't work on Mondays. But I'm also going to try and I think I can stream Saturdays, and then I'm hoping to get a stream or two in during the week. It's a little unpredictable sometimes coming home from work. Especially right now, this is kind of our busy season in the illustration department. So sometimes the days might run a little long. But I figure it's easy enough. Now that I have this set up, I can at least stream a little sketch. It might not always be like a 3-hour stream, but I'm definitely gonna make an effort to be a regular here from now on. And you guys can always come onto my Instagram and harass me if I don't stream enough. Within reason, because, I reserve the right to block. But I probably won't, since I just gave you permission to harass me if I don't stream enough. No takebacks. I know, that was a dangerous thing to say, huh? Right now I'm really going to try and stream often because I also just want to kind of get a little more used to the process, and I'm still figuring out Twitch, and they have all these different rules and things that different size accounts can do, and I'm not sure if they have all those rules listed anywhere. It's the tricky thing. So it's a work in progress. Indicate some kind of ground. As far as exercises to kind of practice the focal point, I mean, that's kind of, it's a tricky one, because what it comes down to really is just discipline, right? Like, but also partly moving slow at first, because it's usually when we're just trying to move really fast and we don't take the time to stop and consider what we're doing. That's usually when we kind of go too far, and either we mess something up or we just realize, wow, we just did a bunch of work that was totally unnecessary. So a lot of it comes down to mileage, but if it's something that at least you start to be aware of, then it's something you can kind of just every so often just kind of step back from your image and think like, okay, does it need more? What else does it need? And or if you want to do more to it, will that make it better? And sometimes it doesn't. I mean, there have been a lot of times. What happened to me with watercolor all the time, because it's such a quick medium compared to oils, which was kind of what I learned first. So I would do watercolors, and then I'd step back after like 45 minutes of painting, just looking to kind of consider, okay, what else do I need to do? And I'd look at it and be like, it's done. Wait a second. And I was like, can it be done already? I only put 45 minutes into it. And so some of that was I just had to give myself permission to say that, yes, that's okay. You can be done with a painting in 45 minutes. That's perfectly fine. So it just took some getting used to and practice, and I think it's just something, as long as you're thinking about it, you'll start to become more and more aware of it, and then I think it'll become a little less of a challenge. And then some of it is also just getting to know the medium that you're working in, right? Like with this, I know what I need to detail out and what I can detail out when I do the tone, right? When I do the values on the other side, I can do other kinds of detail that might be softer. So some of the stuff behind her, namely the big, this big Triclops dude, I can give him some details and texture in the tone, and I don't have to worry about all of that right now in the pencils. So if I know that, then I can kind of pick and choose where to put some of those details right now and what I'll leave for later. Just thinking, giving him scales of some kind. Can you request a song? Depends on the song. You can request it. I might not play it. And then what I will do, if I can find, there it is. I'll use a 70% gray. I was just using black. The rough was in 50%, and I'll use a 70% gray just to hit some of the stuff in the background. Because that way, the nice thing with 70% is I know it'll never get as dark as the black. So I can control the atmosphere very easily, very quickly, and knowing that I want this stuff to be loose, because I don't want it to be distracting. I just want it to add a little more depth to the piece, right? Just to get a sense that, okay, they are out somewhere. I don't want it to just be floating in nothingness. Dude, for Prez, you're leaving us hanging. What song did you want to request? Chances are, if it's a contemporary song, I might not know it. I never listen to the radio ever. Though my girlfriend makes me listen to the radio sometimes. Trying to decide if there's anything else I want to do before I throw the tone on. And actually with this one we're going to do a little different. I know a lot of my stuff will be in black and white, like all grayscale. I'm actually going to do a little bit of color on this one. So that'll be fun. Alright, it's almost. Alright, let's throw some tone and color on here. Right, so since it's transparent, we get to flip it over and do all the tone on the back, which is a fun little experience. For this one, I like to start, we'll just start with a general tone. The brown gets a little too hot for my liking, just on its own. So I'll usually mix it with like a 90% cool gray, just to take some of the heat out. because it can be a little overpowering if I'm not careful. It's not careful, it's just if I leave it on its own, it'll just be a little overpowering. So I'll usually just mix in some 90% cool gray. This is the fun, messy part that people on Instagram always freak out about because they think I'm ruining my drawing. But I'm not. I wouldn't do that. Not to say I haven't, but you know. Plenty of ruined drawings out there. Then what I have is just Gamsol. It's just natural mineral spirits, usually used for oil painting, and I just put it in a little squeeze bottle. Because what it does is that melts the wax in the Prismacolors. I just put on a shop towel, you know, the blue, here, yeah, just blue shop towels. I like them because they're durable. A lot of people just use normal paper towels, but they always get chewed up super quick. So I just put it on here. This one has already been used a lot, as you can see. Just squeeze some on. And start smearing that around. Right, melts that wax. Now we have a nice base tone to work with. And this usually takes a few minutes to dry. It takes longer to dry in my apartment. I think it's more humid here than it is at work. So I'll usually use just the back side of the paper towel, the shop towel, to just help speed up some of that drying. Because otherwise what'll happen is if I go to erase when it's not dry, it'll just lift it up completely and go right back to white. And I don't necessarily want that. Sometimes though you can use that to your advantage. Like sometimes you do want it to go back to white in certain areas. And in this case, I might do that in places. Kind of have to decide if I want her silhouette to pop more. Might go a little darker on her. With this, I'll see a lot of people make the mistake of trying to get too precise with this part of the process early on. That's warm gray. It could be kind of fun. Throw some warm gray in there, why not? Feeling that was not dark brown I just put on. That might have been umber, but that's okay. I'm just trying to give myself a little more shadow to work with on her. With this guy, I'm just trying to get some texture on him. I'm not as worried about like really going hard into the lighting on him, since I do want him to kind of sit back there. I'd rather the main rendering really be on her. Trying to find my pencils here. There they are. Cool gray, dark brown. I don't always work larger. This is actually bigger. So this is 11 by 17. And this is actually bigger than I typically do at work. I'll still work on 11 by 17, but usually the image will only be about that big. So no, I don't usually work larger when likeness is involved. If I really need to like really render something, then I might. But I typically still like to work smaller, even if I have to render it. It just means I have to be more mindful of every mark, right? Because if you have a head that's only the size of your thumbnail, then if a mark is even a millimeter off, it just won't look like the person anymore. So you just have to go a little slower and be more conscious of what you're doing. I'm just reinforcing some of the accent shadows right now. Because it's almost like if you're familiar with the multiply layer in Photoshop, it works similar to that, right? If I put, like, with each layer, it's the top or the front and the back, it'll get darker and darker. So I know that just doing a little bit of reinforcing of those accents will help pop them out on the front side. A little bit of background. Artemis, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry. I may have butchered it. Artemitsa? Artemitsa. I don't know. But welcome. So this is just a little Tombow Mono Zero eraser. I'll use this just for all the little details now. Or if it's just something that needs to be more precise. Get all the little highlights. Yeah, the Tombows are awesome. It definitely makes my life easier. And I love, because I can basically just use it like a pencil on here, so I can get all kinds of nice little details, add to the texture, little specular highlights where I want. Yeah, actually, I have that rectangular one. I don't know why I don't end up using it much. I've definitely tried, and I always have it out at work, but I just rarely use it. I think I don't often need to get that kind of edge work, although I will use it for like smoke or steam. Works really nicely for that kind of stuff. Yeah, man, sometimes flipping the drawing, it's like the moment of truth, you know? Sometimes you flip it over and you're just like, whoa, lopsided as hell. And because, you know, we all have those days where our brain just isn't seeing right. So yeah, there are times that I'll do that and it, like, the errors are so obvious that I just wonder how the hell I don't see it on the front side. And then other days, like, I'll flip it over, looks perfect. Like, cool. Sometimes I know what I'm doing. I think they get a little better, the mileage, like, it probably makes them, like, fewer, further between, or, you just develop ways of working around it over time. And just recognizing that, yes, that's part of the process. Because sometimes, usually that'll happen if I'm just super slammed with work and I don't really have time to do a warm-up sketch, which honestly is never a good idea. Even if you know that, like, oh, I really need to get working, but if you can get a warm-up sketch in, and kind of the benefit of it is it gets your brain and your eyes and your hands working together, but also it's a chance, like, because you can just kind of work on essentially a throwaway sketch, something that doesn't matter. It's okay if it's wrong, it's okay if you screw it up. There's no pressure, so it's just kind of a nice opportunity to sort of just get something down, because we often forget that drawing is a physical activity, and like any physical activity, you have to warm up. Athletes never go out on the field or out on the basketball court into a game without warming up first, and there's a reason for that. And so if you just think of it like any other physical activity, you'll recognize that, okay, hey, yeah, that warm-up process is kind of important. A lot of clients don't like it because they think, hey, I'm paying you to not draw my work, but if they want better work out of it, that's part of the process. So that often helps to kind of bypass some of those pitfalls of just not seeing the way that you should be seeing. And then other times it just comes down to, like, just not panicking. Just being like, all right, it's going to be one of those days, so I got to pay extra attention to that part. And then the other side, of course, is that if no one calls you out on it, you can probably just turn it in. Man, I forgot. I didn't get her hair back here. We'll add some stuff on the front. Yeah, oftentimes we learn the most working through the difficulties, working through those obstacles. You know, when everything's just going our way, that's not usually the time that we're learning. So on those hard days, I feel like it's especially important to just keep pushing through till you come out the other end. Getting a bit of that, some specular highlight for the leather. A little bit of color on here, and I'm just gonna do some color basically with these guys. These are just some Faber-Castell polychromos. I like their color options, actually a lot better than the color options for the same size set of Prismas. So I like to use these. And what I like is that with the kind of base mid-tone, it just makes the colors nice and subtle, which gives it this kind of old-timey feel, which I really like. And you'll see when I flip it around, when I flip it back to the front, the colors will be even more subtle. It always takes a second to adjust. Of course, on the stream, they're probably even more so than they are for me, but it's because the cameras don't tend to pick them up as well. But there's not much I can do about that. And I tend to treat this, like when I'm doing these really subtle colors, I tend to think of it more as just nudging the colors over one way or the other. I'm not trying to like really do a full color kind of deal. So I'll tend to just use them as accents. I've been thinking about some ways where I might be able to really like do some strong like full color stuff with this. I just need to test those things out first. Before I go streaming them, not knowing what the hell I'm doing or if they'll even work. Yeah, it does actually mute them quite a bit. And so it's funny because you get used to looking at it on this side. And then when you flip it over, at first it seems like, oh my god, they're too washed out. But if you kind of know what to expect, it's not that big of a deal. If you don't know what to expect, it can be a little jarring. But I really like the way that it mutes them and just makes them more subtle. And then the wash just kind of unifies it all, which, again, I really like. And all you need to do is kind of nudge some of them around, which starts to differentiate them. So maybe we'll first of all give some heat. So I think just to push this guy further away from her, just really subtly will cool him off, right? Which will separate the two of them. Hopefully. We'll see if we can even see this on the front. I should probably check to be sure. Or we'll just roll the dice and hope for the best. Because sometimes I will also then come in with some color on the front, just to kind of reinforce some of that. I guess I really treat this more like glazing. Cools can recede. It's interesting because I know we're always taught that cools recede and warms pop forward. And yet, if you look at landscape, it's pretty amazing how warm the colors in the distance are. They're more desaturated to a degree and lower contrast, but they're kind of a little warmer version of the colors that are in the foreground, but the colors up close are really saturated, but amazingly like blue, crisp, kind of clear blue. And so I think cools receding is a way to start understanding kind of atmospheric perspective, but when you get into a more advanced take on it, you start to find that, damn, all that stuff I learned in school is only kind of right. Which is sort of annoying. some more little accents in here. Because sometimes there's a bit of push and pull, right? Like when I flip this back over, I might see like, oh, hey, this part needs a little more work, a little more rendering, or who knows? Maybe I want to pop some more color in there or something. Let's give her a couple old scars. She doesn't need to have perfect skin, right? Put a few miles on her. It's more interesting that way. Just a little bit of texture and noise. Add a little bit of interest. Too much texture on her face. That'll get distracting. Then I can do reinforce some of this stuff. I can even add additional things in the background because then they'll get pushed back when I flip this back around. So again, just some built-in atmospheric perspective, right? Using a 70% gray instead of some kind of darker color. It just makes my job easier. Just kind of built-in control, I guess. It's always a good thing. Lets me work a little faster when I need to. What is this? Dark red. I feel like if he's that dead, this is not from any kind of reference. This is pretty much just from my head, but I just draw from essentially from reference all day at work, so I don't really feel the need to use it all the time. It's not a bad thing to use reference. You know, obviously, I know there are a lot of people who are like, do this all right out of my head, and Like, that's cool, and I do. Most of my stuff, I would say. At least the stuff that I post, since I can't post this stuff at work, or that I do for work. But, so most of the stuff I post is, yeah, without reference. But because I do use it a lot at work, you know, I can get away with it. But there's nothing wrong with using reference. And there are times that I do. Even if you can draw stuff just straight out of your head, which, you know, for the most part I can, it's just a good practice to kind of go back to reference every now and then, just to kind of increase that mental library. You know, otherwise what you'll find happens is you start stylizing more and more and more, because you're just kind of, what you begin to remember is how you drew it the last time, so you start to simplify that rather than really remembering the actual thing that you're drawing. So that's part of the challenge, is like always kind of go back to the source. If you're drawing out of your head, consider the actual thing that you're drawing, not just how you drew it before. Alright, let's see how this looks on the front. See, the nice thing is those lines pop out again. And the whole thing is like unified, has a subtle look. But what I will do is I will come back in, especially on her, and reinforce some of those colors. But the first thing I'll do is reinforce some of the shadows. I'm just using a dark brown here. It's just gonna kind of unify some of those shadows a bit. Because I like to have a strong, like kind of strong shadow shapes in my stuff. I love lighting. I love getting into lighting. So if I can get into some nice shadow design, then I'm pretty happy. Where did my black pencil go? This'll do. So this is where I will come in over the front and reinforce some of the hits of color on her. Mostly it'll be more in the mid-tones and not everywhere, just enough to, you know, give her some pop. And this is kind of where I'll just put in some little, I don't know, finishing flourishes, so to speak. think, let's see, it's 70%. The other thing I'll do, you can see how the 70% kind of starts to sort of unify those shadows. This is what I do a lot, especially if I'm working in black and white. I don't do it as much when I'm working in color, but it works in this case. Just to strengthen the design of these shadow shapes and sort of unify them into one shape a little more. Bit of white for some other little details. I don't even know if you can you even see that? I'm looking at the screen. Maybe you can. I don't have it like full screen or anything, so alright. I might call that one done. Maybe we'll move on to an ink drawing. Yeah, charcoal takes a certain amount of control for sure, which in really all it means is that it's just going to take a little more time because you got to push and pull and finesse some stuff. But for work, since I don't have that time, though I did recently do some charcoal drawings, and I mean I loved it. It was so much fun. I loved the result that I got, but it took a little too long. Because I had to push and pull a lot more. But that was also a lot of fun. So, sacrifices, I guess. Trying to decide if I think she needs anything more. The only thing I might do is something, I don't know why, but sometimes I like to just come in and totally reinforce that contour. I mean, I know why, because it just helps pop her forward, but I don't know. It doesn't always need it, but I like the look of it, and I guess for us artists, it's kind of what it comes down to, huh? I won't do it everywhere, because it's nice to have some subtle lines in places, but let's reinforce his gnarly red-rimmed eyes. And I'll also post this up on Instagram, and you'll be able to see the final result, maybe with a little more accurate color than what the camera can do. What this camera can do. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Let's call that one done. I'm gonna call that one done. And maybe I'll might jump into a little ink drawing. Possibly. So let's move her out of the way. And we'll get into some inks, because inks are fun. Let's see if this will... Stay? Good. Inks. Let's see here. I will need a little water container. And give me just a couple minutes. Gotta feed the cat. This little one. She's hungry. All right. Let's do some ink drawing. I need... It is a moleskin. This is the moleskin Art Plus sketchbook. So this is the larger one. I forget. A4? A3? A4, I think. So it's not the, let's see, I've got, this is like the normal size moleskin that you get. I like this size. I like the smaller one. Sometimes if I'm just out and about, it's easier to carry, but this is generally the size that I like to draw in. How often do I stream? Well, I'm gonna try and stream more often. I'm kind of just getting back to it. It took me a little while to kind of get around to getting equipment that could actually show traditional art well enough. I used to stream a bit more, but I would do digital because it was easy enough to just, stream the screen capture. But getting a setup that can show like the detail of a drawing, that took longer than I expected, and I probably got a little more sidetracked than I should have, but what are you gonna do? So I want to stream hopefully 2-3 times a week is what I'd like to do. It's all just kind of, some of it's working around work, some of it's working around girlfriend. But I will stream every Monday. I'll just, have to kind of work through it and see what time, so that I could give you guys like a set time that I'll be doing it each Monday. And then probably Saturday afternoons, a little earlier than I started today. I started at 3 today, so I'll probably do it a bit earlier on Saturdays. And then I'd like to stream during the week at some point. Sometimes that gets a little unpredictable though with, Hollywood traffic. Coming back from work sometimes can take a while. A long while. And that's no fun. We'll see. This will definitely be like, the whole streaming thing will, I'll just keep chipping away at it, and I know there's still a lot to learn. Twitch has so many features that I don't even understand, and then they have all these limitations and stuff, so we'll see. I'll just keep doing it, and hopefully I'll just keep learning more about how to use it and what works for me. Obviously, like, I doubt I'll ever utilize all their features because it probably just won't necessarily apply to what I do, but I'll do what I can. And I'll just keep drawing and having fun. We can all draw, it just takes a little bit of practice. Well, not a little bit, it takes a lot of practice. But sorry, I won't make it sound like it's super easy, because I know it's not. But with practice, we can learn. No, this would be from Final Fantasy VI. And yes, years and years of practice. it is worth it. It's funny. It actually me took me a long time to discover, I don't know, my look or whatever, and it was really just through mileage. Honestly, I didn't used to have a distinct look to my stuff, at least not that I noticed, which is initially what made me really good as a sketch artist, because I was working mostly on the video game side, designing or helping on like game covers and stuff like that. So I was really just matching the style of the game, which worked well for me because I didn't have like a style of my own that I was married to. And I feel like it didn't actually click until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So like I was in my early 30s at that point. And it wasn't, I don't know, I think it actually wasn't until I started doing more stuff for film, movie posters and that kind of stuff, where I was really drawing, it was all realism, so there was no style to match, so then I was able to, I think, just kind of discover what my style was. But yeah, it took a while, but it was worth it. Using some high-tech C mica gel pens, just like mixing these It is fun when you happen to get those perfect marks, especially when it's something as like organic as a brush pen. The challenge sometimes is recognizing them and not fucking them up. Which doesn't always happen. But every now and then I will make a mark and I'm just like, okay, whatever else I do, I'm not touching that. Thank you. Sometimes I feel like when I'm drawing with the brush pen, I'm just kind of letting it do its thing, so I don't always feel like I have a conscious style with it, because I'm just like, let the pen do all the work. But I know there's a lot more to it than that. So thank you. I'm glad you like my style. I appreciate that. pretty happy with that. For a random ink drawing. It's always weird making it up as I go. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have a pretty clear idea, even if I don't sketch it out beforehand. But making it up as I go, a lot more chance that I'm going to screw it up. Alright guys, I think I'm going to call it a night, at least on the streaming side, and but I'll probably be back again tomorrow. I'll try and let you guys know in the morning what time. It might be more of a evening thing, I'm not sure. We'll see. Of course now I see one little bit where the shadow's bugging me. It's always a danger, right? When do you call it? At a certain point, we just have to say, you know what? It's done. No matter what I see. So that's what I will say now. It is done, no matter what I see. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyone that came in late, obviously you can always go back and watch it from the beginning. And I'll also post the pictures that I did on Instagram, and you can see the link down below for that. So give me a follow on Instagram, follow me here. I'm really going to do my best to be more of a regular and not disappear from the world. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.